Welcome to Discovering.
Generally found in cool northern climates like the UP, bogs are unique wetlands formed over hundreds of thousands of years when layers of dead organic material accumulate faster than they can decompose. These wetlands, rich in biodiversity, are found in all counties of the UP, and tonight we explore one with retired biologist and conservationist Rod Sharka to learn more about these important environments.
These two little lakes are typical of a lot of little glacial pothole lakes in the North Woods. And there's two small lakes here that are attached together by a network of channels through floating bog mats.
And the king salmon bite is on Lake Michigan. Brian Whitens from 906 Outdoors has a tasty salmon and wild rice recipe for us.
So sit back and relax. It's Monday night, and it's time for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. The call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Technically, this is really a fen. The difference between a bog and a fen is a bog gets all of its water strictly from rain or snow, and does not get any groundwater, and so they tend to be very nutrient poor. Fens are a little bit richer because they do get a lot of water and minerals from groundwater. We're standing on a floating mat here, so there's water underneath it. And as they grow, they extend out over the water's edge, and eventually, given enough time, they will actually close over the lake and it'll become a meadow. It takes perhaps hundreds or even thousands of years, but all lakes up here are destined to become meadows and ultimately forests sooner or later. They're only temporary. Now, it's a pretty thick mat here. I see some sundews, but they tend to grow along the edge. I don't want to go out too close to the edge because the mat gets thinner and there's always the risk of dropping through. You have to be a little careful on bog mats or fen mats because, as I said, they're just a floating mat of vegetation with water underneath. Bogs are characteristically very acidic. They have a lot of sphagnum moss that creates these mats. Everybody has heard of peat moss, and peat moss is actually dried, partially decomposed sphagnum moss. And the sphagnum moss can hold tremendous amounts of moisture. I think I heard somewhere like 70% of their weight is water. And this is what creates this environment here. Little shrubs in a bog or a fen mat. Here we have Labrador tea, very fuzzy undersurface of the leaves. It's believed that helps prevent a lot of evaporation or transpiration, helps hold moisture, retain moisture in the leaves. And it's more important in the wintertime than it is in the summer. Here we have one of the neat things that I love about bogs is they are a great place to find relatively rare orchids or our native orchids. This happens to be called grass pink or Calipogan orchid. There are certain times of year, if you hit it just right, the bog mats are just covered with these orchids. There's also a lot of sedges, these very grass-like things. And then we have a beginning of one of the flowers of a sedge. This sedge is called tawny cotton grass, and it's still a little immature. But if you come later in the late summer, early fall, the bog will be covered with all of these plants that have like a little cotton ball at the top, which is the seed head. And they'll just blow in the wind, and this particular one species stands pretty tall. It gets 2-3 feet tall. All of the plants in a bog are adapted to living in this very acidic, very nutrient-poor condition. The pitcher plants are adapted to catching insects in these traps. These are a carnivorous plant. Their leaves are formed into a pitcher and they fill with rainwater. The insects are attracted to the leaves. They emit an odor that's desirable for the insects. The veination, red veins in there, direct the insects to crawl down the edge of the leaf, and there are numerous tiny bristles pointing downward on the leaf, so they can easily go down, but they can't climb back up because the bristles are in their way. And so they'll climb down, and then the lower part of the lip is smooth, so that they slip down and fall into the water. This particular leaf is filled with water. And then the leaf exudes digestive enzymes into that water and digests the insects. Not like we do. They don't get proteins and carbohydrates and fats from the insects. Rather, they depend on getting nitrogen from the organic compounds they digest from the insects. These are the flowers of the pitcher plant. They're actually, by this time of year, they're the seed pods. And here we have a little bent over plant called swamp loosestrife or swamp candles. Actually a native plant. It's not closely related to purple loosestrife, which is an aquatic invasive or wetland invasive up here. And here's a yellow spider running around on it. I have no idea what that spider is, but it's camouflaged and colored to match the colors of the swamp candle. On the mat edge, and actually follow the growth of the mat out from the tree line, you have black spruce here and tamarack. These are trees that are relatively tolerant to acid conditions and actually like that acid. That tree could be 100 years old. They grow very, very slowly in the bogs. This is wild cranberry. I don't see any cranberries in this patch, but we will ultimately find some somewhere along the lake edge. And these are another orchid, rose begonia orchid. Also tend to be abundant in bogs, but are found nowhere else, no other kind of habitat. And they generally grow along the edge in more of a fen-like condition where they're literally in very soaking water. This is a common aquatic plant that lakefront owners tend to dislike because they can become very abundant in shallow water and sometimes will interfere with swimming and other recreational activities. This is called water shield. You notice how the stems and underside of the leaves are coated with this slimy gelatinous material. The plant actually makes that. It's a polysaccharide that they secrete, and it coats the undersides. There are a couple of different hypotheses about the function of that to the plant. Some think it's a protection against insect damage. Others say that it makes the leaves and stems very slippery, so it prevents them from being damaged in high winds or waves. They can slide past each other very easily. And there's a Chinese company that is working to research this material and figuring out how to synthesize it. Because of its slipperiness, their intention is to use it to coat things like catheters and other medical devices that need to be able to slide through narrow tubes like blood vessels or urinary tubes and make them very, very slippery so they are less likely to cause damage. It's also known that these have various kind of antibiotic properties. There's a number of antibiotics that are being tested that can be extracted from these leaves. They grow very readily and abundantly. These two little lakes are typical of a lot of little glacial pothole lakes in the North Woods. And there's two small lakes here that are attached together by a network of channels through floating bog mats. So you can get really up close and personal with the bog mat and the plants that grow on them. This is investigating bogs in style. Keep your feet dry. Two other heaths that grow in these kind of environments that are common in bogs and fens. Bog rosemary here, and these are the berries. Bog rosemary produces flowers that resemble the flowers of blueberry, and it's not related to the horticultural herb rosemary, but the leaves look very much like it. And then you have bog laurel, which is also has very linear leaves, and the seeds of the bog laurel are more brownish, and the berries on the bog rosemary are pinkish. Here's some more rose begonia orchids all along the shore here. Get a close-up of a couple sundews right here. They're actually starting to flower. They have flower stalks coming up. Sundews have a different strategy of catching insects than the pitcher plants. The sundew, very small plants, and the leaves are covered with glistening red hairs with little glands on the end of them, and they secrete a sticky sap and also a perfume scent that attracts flies and small insects. If the insect lands on it, it gets stuck, and they're struggling, activates the leaves to go through a very rapid growth spurt, causing the leaf to fold over the insect and engulf it. And then the plant will secrete digestive juices to digest the insect so they can derive nutrients from it, primarily nitrogen. Anytime you find that sphagnum moss, you'll find sundews. And the sundews are the same color, so they tend to blend in. This is called bladderwort right there. It's a fairly common plant in bog lakes, as well as most lakes, actually. Most people don't know anything about it. And if you look very closely, the leaves have tiny bladders on them, and those bladders are well, not really insect, but little traps they use mostly for catching zooplankton, like little water fleas and things like that, sometimes even small mosquito larvae. Just a fascinating mechanism. The bladder is hollow, and it has a little trap door on the front. The trap door has some trigger hairs on it. What the plant will do is pump the water out of the trap, creating a vacuum, and then if a little protozoan or a little water crustacean comes swimming by and bumps those hairs, the trap door springs open, creating a suction that sucks the little critter in, and then it slams shut. And this action is so fast. One moment, the little critter is swimming outside the trap door, and the next moment, it's inside. And the action is so fast that you can't really observe it. Here's the yellow flower of another species of bladderwort called horn bladderwort. And that bladderwort is not a free-floating form. That one, the roots and stems are actually in the muck, and the bladders are down in the muck. There's an 19th century naturalist by the name of John Burroughs who made the statement once that the horn bladderwort has the sweetest smelling flowers we have in North America. somewhat uncommon because this particular species is only found in fen and bog mats, mostly fen. Looks to me like this was not a good year for cranberries. I haven't seen a single cranberry fruit yet. Probably we had some late frosts. This little bog lake has very abundant cranberry normally. They would be green this time of year, but they should be quite visible. They're a lot smaller than the commercial cranberries, only about the size of a pea, but very intensely flavored. Here's some old ones from last year. They actually do last a long time if they're not, something doesn't find them and eat them. Wild cranberries. These are from last year. Yeah, they wouldn't be this ripe. In fact, they're probably a little fermented. You want to try one? Very good. To think that these little bog lakes have been like this for probably thousands of years. They're one of the most pristine environments in the North Woods that you can go into, as long as they haven't been disturbed by humans too much. Oh, they're fascinating. And if you have a canoe or kayak and you live on a lake or a lake chain, large or small, most lakes do have at least a little bit of bog habitat along some shoreline. So get out and explore and enjoy these wonderful, beautiful little habitats.
Hey, Brian here, 906 Outdoors Cooking Wild Seasonings. Salmon, if you're going to catch them, you might as well cook them. Tonight for dinner, maple marinated salmon on the grill with a side order of wild rice. A nice Great Lakes salmon fillet and Cooking Wild Seasonings Ultimate Maple Pork and Salmon Rub. A nice sweet mapley flavor with minimal spices. Perfect for grilled salmon. We're going to start out with the marinade. I only had, well, this much soy sauce in the fridge, which wasn't enough. I also found a little bit of teriyaki sauce. Still not enough. Add in a handful of Ultimate Maple. Makes it simple. I needed a bit more liquid, so I found some apple juice hanging around the fridge as well. Most recipes you find dictate leaving the skin on, and that certainly helps hold it all together during the cooking process. But I'm a skinless guy. I can't say that I've ever cooked a steak with the skin still attached. To me, the more surface I can subject to the flavor-enhancing seasonings and the flames of the grill, the better. In goes the marinade, and then into the fridge for 1 to 3 hours. Enough time for our salmon to soak up the unique flavors of the marinade. Time to start our wild rice. The recipe I found said bring 3 cups of water to a boil. Add a teaspoon of kosher salt and 1 cup of rice. I picked up this bag at the Mackinac Straits Fish Company in St. Ignace. Now simmer for 30 minutes to an hour until the grains of rice become tender. Doesn't hurt to give your salmon a little attention now and then to make sure the marinade is evenly distributed. So after a short time I concluded that 3 cups of water was not enough and added another 3 cups. Wild rice requires a bit different process than typical rice. When it's done, you drain the remaining water, kind of like pasta. The sun was sinking low, so it was time to get the salmon on the grill. So I found this gadget hanging around. Looks brand new. I know I don't like these things, but can't quite remember why. And some Ultimate Maple Rub to top it off. Aha! Now I remember why I don't like these things. I assure you, if I decide to retrieve it from its current resting place in the woods next to my deck, it will be redesigned with a suitable latching device. The wild rice was the perfect accompaniment to the salmon. I can tell you for sure that the salmon was excellent. The marinade flavored the fish to the center, and the outside had the perfect mouth-watering appeal of maple sweetness with a slight hint of mild spices. Add in a little char from the grill, and yes, delicious.
That's all for tonight, and I hope to see you right back here next week for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.